I'm not allowed to stand up for myself. I thought this was America.
An explanation is probably long overdue.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
An explanation? Jesus Christ, Dad, an explanation? Look at me.
To think I almost split the profits on the man's ear.
Dad, Mom says to stop trying to give yourself cancer.
Just gonna get a little bit of cancer, Stan. Tell Mom it's okay.
The dad from Fear with Mark Wahlberg. Now, that's a freaking good dad, dude.
Hello, and welcome back to episode 2 of New Dad Podcast. This is your host, Uncle Tickles, and I am thrilled to have you back for another episode. We're going to be having a special conversation about screen time today. It's a big issue in our house. We're talking to two of the best dads on the planet. We're talking to Adam Jennrich and Michael Flynn. These guys have raised not only brilliant, well-behaved, well-mannered, well-adjusted children, but they're some of the most patient, kind, smart, and funny dads that I've had the pleasure of getting to know and become a dad alongside. So I hope that you take as much away from my conversation with them as I did. I want to encourage any listeners to check out our Instagram page. And maybe even more importantly, check out the YouTube videos of these episodes, because when we make references to our dads or our families and our children, a lot of times I will include photos or videos of those people mentioned. And I think, as I've said on our Facebook group page, it's the way to get the most out of the podcast. So encourage you and hope to see you guys over on those different platforms. We're going to hear from our presenting sponsor, and then Prob Cause will take us away before we talk to Adam and Mike. So see you soon. Sleep 6 mattresses. Make the most of what you get. Sleep made simple. Sleep 6. Our presenting sponsor, Sleep 6, will be giving away a mattress to the parent with the worst sleepless night story. Again, Sleep 6 mattresses will be giving away a mattress to the parent with the worst sleepless night story. Send your sleepless night stories to thenewdadpod@gmail.com or message me on our Instagram or Facebook groups with your sleepless night story. We'll be aiming to pick the winner during one of our progress report episodes. So stay tuned and send your sleepless night stories to us and Sleep 6. Sleep made simple.
When I'm in that groove, when I'm in that mood, and I'm in that mode, and I'm in that zone, when I'm in that flow, when I'm in that groove, when I'm in that mood, when I'm in that mode, and I'm in that zone, and I'm in that flow. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Welcome back to the New Dad Podcast. I have Michael Flynn. I think we had said on your wife's podcast, our friendship goes back 35 years. I am 38 years old now, so I've known you since I was about 3, and Adam, we've known each other since 7th grade. So two longtime friends. I would say there's a circle.
I mean, I've known him a little bit longer, no big deal.
Yeah. And so
I wasn't counting.
Yeah. No, but you guys are part of I would say there's a very tight-knit, close inner circle that I have, and you guys make up two of those spots for sure. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourselves. We'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah. So like as Tommy had said, we've known each other for over 30 years now. Grew up in the Midwest. Have moved all around the country. With my family from Milwaukee to where Jennrich now resides in the freezing cold tundra of Minneapolis, to where I am right now out in Seattle, Washington. I have an amazing partner and my wife, Kate, that helps our family run and go. And we have a 7-year-old son, 4-year-old daughter, and then a 2-year-old son. So got a good mix. Nothing compared to the army that Jennrich is building out there in Minnesota.
For sure. And Jennrich, what about you?
Well, as alluded to, I have a large brood. I have 5, and kind of like back in the day where you used to have a bunch of kids for farming, like we do the same here for shoveling. So that's kind of been my lot in life. Like Flynn, I've been grew up in Northern Illinois with these two amongst others, and eventually moved my way around the country and seemed to have kids along the way, 2 in Illinois, 2 in Georgia, and then was in Texas for a little bit, didn't have a child there, but had our 5th here in Minnesota. So my oldest is about to turn 9. My oldest 2 are boys, so I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and then my daughters go 5, 3, and then the baby's about 15 months. So they're basically 2 years apart. They're going to be about every other year in school, and definitely keeps us busy. Like Mike said, being in southern states and Midwest states, and now Minnesota, we've seen a variety of different cultures within the country. So definitely some different cultural mindsets when it comes to parenting. So yeah.
And you work a lot, I know. So what's your day-to-day look like with your interactions with your kids? As far as is your interaction primarily in the morning time? Are you doing it? Are you getting away from work at night in time to see them and put them to bed? Because with different bedtimes and different schedules with kids that span the ages, I imagine it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in restaurants, so when I was running single restaurants, meaning running only one, it was a lot more nights and weekends. So that has evolved into my role now, where I'm overseeing multiple restaurants. So it is a little bit closer to a 9-to-5 gig, as close to one as you can get in the restaurant industry. And fortunately, I don't have to be out the door at 6 o'clock in the morning. So generally, I get to see the kids off to the bus. Like I'll take my daughter to preschool tomorrow, those type of situations. So Joanna, my wife, and I have kind of a thing now that we do back and forth where when the baby gets up, she's usually the first. Like we rotate who's getting up with her.
Gotcha.
And I'm talking about like in the morning. So if the baby's up at 5:30, it's my turn. I'm up at 5:30, whether I want to or not. Sometimes that turns into both of us getting up. Sometimes it doesn't. But I get to see my kids on the front end and the back end.
And Mike, I'll let you talk a little bit just about what your day-to-day looks like, with the kids and the routine and, when you're spending your time and getting your interactions with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely evolved over the years from different positions that Kate has had, my wife, and different jobs that I've had. So there have been situations where, when Kate was working at Amazon, where she had to do a lot of traveling, that was a different scenario where I'd be doing, multiple overnights when she was gone. And then there would also be things for my job now where I'd have to fly back for training and, leave her for 4 or 5 days. But currently we both work remotely. So we both work from home. So we both kind of have the luxury of having schedules where we kind of just communicate on, okay, well, what do you have going on today? I mean, you have to be, I think, a lot better about letting each other know our schedules, because before it'd be like, I'd be gone from X amount of time to X amount of time. And,
right.
But I would say for the most part, yeah, I would get to do kind of the same as Jennifer. I get to see him in the morning. Depending on what my afternoon looks like, I get to see him, I would say, the majority of the time in the afternoon for, when they get home, help them eat and get them down and stuff. So I'm incredibly fortunate to have that opportunity that I wouldn't have had with other jobs I've had in the past.
And you have 2 kids in daycare and 1 kid in school, is that correct?
So yeah, so my oldest is in 2nd grade, and then the other 2, my second 2-year-old and my 4-year-old, both do in-home daycare, and my 4-year-old's moving into preschool right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think one of the things that comes up for me a lot is, and the way that this kind of relates back to screen time, and I only imagine this getting amplified once a second child is introduced into the mix. But being the one that's getting Shep ready, and there's times when I'm getting him ready and myself ready at the same time, right? And there are just moments that you need him. You just need to know that if you turn your back, he's not going to be getting into something. And that's when I think for me, there's 2 instances. There's that instance when I just need to get something accomplished quick, and I know that a screen, whether it be my phone or the TV, and a show, whether it's Elmo or Bubble Guppies, will work. Or it's during those times when your patience is thin and you're trying to do quite a bit, and the freak out or the meltdown happens, and that the screen time will fix that. So. That's my struggle with it, especially recently. But I'm kind of wondering how you guys handle screen time in your houses, and if there are rules or regulations that you put on them for your kids, and also if those rules and regulations kind of change based on the age of the kid. And we'll start with Flynn.
Yeah, man. So I was joking with you guys earlier that we've had 2 snow days in a row here. in Seattle with less than 2 inches of snow. So they don't hesitate here to cancel schools. So it brings you up in a predicament where, yeah, I'm looking at that screen time being like, it's a double-edged sword. Like I get the luxury of kind of working from home and trying to get some things done. But when the schools are closed and I still have to work and try to get things done, it's like, all right, well, do I just put them in front of TV for the next couple hours just so I can get to what I need to get done for the day? So I think in those extreme circumstances, like there was today, yeah, I mean, definitely on like a snow day like today, they're getting way more screen time than they normally would. But I think in general, I mean, yeah, there's obviously in most regards limitations or just a ballpark idea of how much we're going to let them watch a day. There's usually a routine around when they get to watch it. So it's not just like me just like sporadically throwing them in front of the TV. I try to have it planned where, when they come home from school or we pick them up from daycare, that they have to eat, they have to, try to at least read a little bit, brush their teeth, and then like have it as like their nighttime routine. But yeah, it's definitely managing time and then managing the content. But I know that as the age gap kind of spreads, or as like the older ones get older, at least in my house, it becomes harder to kind of separate. All right, what's the 4-year-old going to watch compared to what the 7-year-old's going to watch, and how do we separate that? And I can only imagine the gap that Jennifer's got to work with in terms of monitoring that separation, like the content.
And I know, Jenrick, you actually have had a unique solution to this a little bit, right? And that you kind of presented over Christmas.
So having 5, they all want. It's interesting because from a content standpoint, like Tommy, you brought up Elmo and Bubble Guppies, but like he's probably like a year maybe away from starting to explore YouTube and some of the other streaming things. And YouTube specifically, I think my kids probably watch 70% of the time. So
do they watch the New Dad podcast on YouTube?
It's up and coming. I think they're pretty.
I feel like they could give me a lot. I feel like they could give me a lot of clicks.
The younger audience, there, Tommy.
Yeah,
but the content side on YouTube is even harder to manage because it's just like an uncharted territory. So we're in the early stages of how we manage that. I'm watching regular cable. I know what Bubble Guppies is. I know what they're going to get out of that, and there's not a whole lot of freedom on his part to change it. But the solution you're referring to is, even for us having a TV in our bedroom and a TV downstairs, like we were still finding ourselves, even controlling screen time monopolized by kid-related content in times where we wanted to have, like last night, the national championship game. Like granted it started late, but if it was something at 7:00 where I'm like having to fight my kids away from the TV. So long story short, they got TVs for their rooms. The 2 oldest boys share a room, and the 2 middle girls share a room. They got TVs for the room for Christmas, and we've found that it's been a blessing, but it's also been something we've had to fight because we're, they need to ask permission to go use it. It has to be one of those things where I don't want to in the middle of the day find my 3-year-old hasn't turned on the TV and been on it for an hour and a half. So we're still working our way through what that's going to look like. But like Flynn said, I think controlling what kind and what time has been the goal. Whether we hit it every day, it's like we've been joking about the weather here. It's like it's -6 degrees. Like what are we supposed to do all day?
Right. And do you think there's a big difference between supervised and unsupervised, TV time or screen time?
I don't think too much yet. I think we're getting close. I think they're pretty they're pretty limited as far as the stuff they like anyway, so that's what they stick to. There's not many times where I'm like, I'm gonna pop open their door and see what they got going on, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you're not supposed to be watching this.
And I was thinking even more so from a standpoint of how there's a lot of kids programming, and a lot of that kids programming tries to reinforce different academia standards, whether it's arithmetic or spelling, geography, and
animal knowledge.
That's right, animal knowledge.
Shout out to Octonauts.
Yeah, Octonauts for sea mammals.
Team Zumi, Mike, shoot yourself in the head watching that.
But I've noticed that, and I've heard Flynn talk about this, and after I heard him mention this, I kind of was like looking forward a little bit more and seeing it a lot more, which is this idea of like the eyes glazing over when they watch TV. And I think that's much more something I notice with Shep when it's a situation where I'm saying, okay, I need to get dressed and I need to make sure that I have everything I need for work. So I'm going to sit him down on the couch and he's going to watch. I'm going to put Bubble Guppies on for a couple minutes. That's when I see the glazed over look, right? Because it's just, he's just, kind of taking it in. But when we do watch an episode and he sits on my lap and we're watching it together and we're interacting and I'm helping him, identify that this is a call and response moment, or, now we're looking for the shape, not the color, or those sort of things, that he actually picks up and connects dots more so. So, Flynn, I'm wondering, do you see any difference as far as supervised or unsupervised television time or screen time in your house with the kids, as far as any sort of difference between the two?
I think probably. I think it probably benefits them depending on what they're watching in terms of just comprehension. I think that maybe not so much with the younger ones, but as they get older, like different kind of concepts that are coming up, and like, I mean, Jennifer's like, they're watching things on YouTube, you know what I mean? They're hearing different terms and different slangs, and you'd be like, oh, what is that supposed to mean? Or what is this supposed to mean? So, kind of going through some of that with them and kind of explaining, this what this is, or like, even things like as stupid as watching like Home Alone, where you're like, hey, listen, man, like, when he throws that paint can off that balcony, man, like, that dude's freaking done, man. Like, he's not getting up from that. You know what I mean? But just explain, because they're dying laughing, but just explain, like, that's murder, son.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to come around a corner and you kick me with a paint can. You know what I mean? Like, just explain just things like that. But I think that, for the most part, it's been pretty tame. There hasn't been any times where, you know what I mean? Like, they don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Dad, I get it. Like, that it's fake, or that's in a movie. I think the rawest thing I ever saw was, or maybe my own fault. You ever watch Animal Planet?
Oh yeah.
Dude, so I'm watching one with Mikey. I don't remember how old he was, but there was like this scene where like the lion is like taking down like a gazelle or something, and like just like shreds into it. I didn't think about it. I look over and dude, he's got tears coming down his face, and I just remember being like, sorry, my kid's like, what do you let him watch? And I was like, I didn't think about I forgot how they eat. The savage. Just try to explain things like that. But that was maybe the most difficult thing I had to try to explain, and that was due to my own fault of not thinking about Animal Planet, I guess.
And Jenner, have you had any tough any tough questions that you've had to answer from the kids regarding anything they've seen on screen?
Maybe not specifically about something they saw or watched. I'm sure there's been an instant, but more so like them not being able to comprehend Wi-Fi, and like we're getting in the car and now that doesn't work, or their inability to understand that like my laptop isn't touchscreen, or that they can't rewind, or they can't fast forward to a commercial on live TV. Like little things like that you take for granted, considering even a generation ago or 30 years ago when we were growing up, and how just the ability, the first time you were able to DVR something was like a huge deal.
Oh my God.
And how like they eventually figure that out, but it's one of those things where it's, can we skip these commercials? I'm like, nope. As you guys were talking at the beginning of the podcast, Tommy, about like our role in like taking care of the kids a little bit more, helping with the morning stuff, and even in your guys' shoes where you guys might be doing that a little bit more commonly with your wife traveling or working a lot. And it's like thinking about our three dads and like the mixture of that persona of like stern, hands off, and all that type of stuff. It's just crazy how much more hands-on we are and naturally good at it. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah.
Considering where we've come from.
Well, I think that your listeners need to be honed in on some facts about your guys' dad, that they've both punched me in the face on separate occasions. So
yeah. Well, don't feel special. Papa Pappas has punched lots of people in the face.
Yeah, but it takes a real certain character to bring the rage out of Mr. Jedrick.
Oh, that is true.
Water basketball.
A quick punch in the face during a game of water basketball.
Yeah.
Hey, there are no rules. It's like Fight Club.
Jenner, why don't you take a second, and I'll give Flynn a second to describe his dad. But I always love the Home Depot description. So tell that story real quick.
During the summer, he ran a concrete construction business that we worked with him on. So good money, outside work, all that type of stuff. But me and another buddy, Matt, who you guys are well aware of, were in Home Depot with him, and we'd both gone in separate directions to get different things. And we are literally wandering around the store looking for him. And this Home Depot employee stops us in our tracks and is like, what are you guys looking for? And we're like, oh, we're looking for my dad. He's somewhere around here. And he just looks at us and goes, stern, crew cut, looks like he could rip your face off. And we're like, that's him. And he pointed out where he was, and we met back up. And we always got a kick out of like that description, because at face value, it definitely comes across like my dad, because he's an intimidating MFer.
He's like a shorter Howie Long, as I like to put it.
There you go.
Yeah. And Flynn, we'll let you wax poetically about your dad a little bit.
My dad's big dude. He's about 6'8", rolling anywhere between about 260 to three bills at any given time. Pappas, you got the pleasure of playing 8th grade basketball for him, and I got to see some of how our old relationship was, of arguing back and forth, getting punished by lots and lots of laps. Good guy, but definitely hot-tempered, definitely quick to make decisions. He's the kind of guy that'll go in and take on a couple Subway employees for talking trash to his daughter. Real spur of the moment, but taught lessons a tough way, maybe somewhat effective, but I would say a little rough back in the day.
Loves the turkey sandwich.
Dude, still loves the turkey sandwich.
There's
no need to stop at McDonald's. You can just run to the grocery store real quick for some turkey and some bread.
Make some lunch meat.
If she's saying lunch meat, you don't even waste all that money at a fast food place.
I'm glad we're talking about our dads, because the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was just screen time for us, when we were kids. And, me personally, we had no screen time restrictions. In fact, I would say that my relationship, I was closer with my mom, by far. And a lot of that relationship centered around TV. We watched a lot of TV as a family, and her and I especially. That was something I think that became, I wouldn't say in the center of our friendship, in high school, but we watched, that was something, if I were to name some father figures, I would probably put Mr. Kelly on there. And, all the time we spent in the Kelly basement, which was at that point, really a blockbuster video, and maybe even better than a blockbuster video. And we would just go over there, and this guy, Kristen Kelly was a good friend of all of ours in high school, and her dad would. Thinking about it now, it's actually fucking nuts because what I think about is the math, and I try to calculate how much money he was spending on those steaks, because there would be probably anywhere no less than 4 high school boys to sometimes in the upwards of 8 to double figures, and he would cook us all giant 2-inch thick ribeyes. Mrs. Kelly would have.
And weren't they butcher shop too? It wasn't like Jewel.
No, 100%. I would go with him. He would have them cut 2 inches thick, and then he would stock up. He would go out and stock up on case after case of Coors Light, knowing that we were coming over. High school kids were coming over to drink his beer, and that was our senior.
Think of the patience, because we had to have been so annoying. I know I was definitely annoyed. He was always super nice to me. So
yeah, super annoying. Just and not just nice to us, but just. Almost made you feel as if, you were more than just his daughter's friend. You were kind of his friend, But
I think he definitely taught me, and probably all of us, a lesson on hospitality, how to host a good party, how to host a barbecue for sure.
Oh, definitely how to cook a fucking steak,
How to cook a steak.
If nothing else. Jenrick, I'm sure you took some of those skills to the Texas
He's
Roadhouse.
responsible for my career path.
Exactly.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
100%. Actually, when I think about it, what was it? Mother's Day at the Texas Roadhouse was very similar to a day at the Kellys.
Yes.
Where there'd be a lot of beer bongs.
Lots of beer.
Lots of peanuts.
Lots of huge steaks.
Giant
peanuts.
steaks.
So many peanuts.
So many peanuts.
So many goddamn peanuts.
But the thing is, we'd go over for these epic dinners, right? And then what would happen, we'd drink a bunch of beers, and then we'd end up in the basement, and Mrs. Kelly would give us really a college level film lesson where she'd be bringing out films. We'd watch something current, but then that current movie always led to, oh, well, if you like this, then you'd have to see this movie, which inspired this director who did this. And and sometimes, you maybe fall asleep watching a movie at 5 a.m. with Mrs. Kelly in the recliner next to you, just being this was what was this? My point being that screen time, seemed like a very social thing for me, and so I'm wondering, how did screen time look like in your guys' families? Were there restrictions? Were there even conversations about whether it was good or bad or anything? And I'll start with you, Mike.
Oh no, absolutely not. I not only the amount of time, but definitely not the content. I distinctly remember watching Friday the 13th movies with my dad when I was 5 or 6. I'm joking, but like also kind of not. I had a TV in my room. I mean, God, I remember when I was in grade school, I'd fall into sleep to Conan O'Brien all the time. But at the same point, something that we've mentioned before, though, there wasn't the overabundance where it was everywhere. When it was at home, or it was at your guys' house, or you and Suds had cable, so it was going to your guys' house to watch things like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was more of maybe like you said, like something you did more of it's like a bonding you did with your mom, or we'd watch like Beavis and Butthead and stuff at your guys' place. But like that was it, because there was a very few programs, one, that were good, or two, it wasn't everywhere that you went. We weren't walking around with phones. We weren't sitting at parks, on cell phones.
Right. Completely
so I would think that it was definitely not monitored, but I don't think it was probably never an issue.
What about you, Jenrick?
I would say pretty similar. I know it wasn't monitored. There wasn't like a, hey, you have a 2 hours tonight type thing. I don't remember when we got TVs upstairs, but eventually it turned into something where, there was no, it's 10 o'clock, turn that off type scenario. They were pretty loosey-goosey about it. And we didn't have cable, so there was an element of that kind of kept things at bay. We were a family that really, really surrounded ourselves on movies too. And I think, like you said, more of a social thing. My parents probably watched more TV than any other 70-year-old couple I can think of. Their DVR is full. They probably have like 25 shows that they record with regularity, and I might have one. So our family grew up in that environment. And kind of going back to what you talked about with the glazed over look, I think that's actually made it so that doesn't necessarily happen to me. I mean, when I'm working and I'm focused on work and a computer, that's one thing. But like, I can sit there and socialize and watch TV and not let it completely overwhelm me. Whereas people that I grew up with that I think were not exposed to TV, like I remember eating dinner at their houses at times, and if the parents let them have the TV on during dinner, like the fork with food like this, like not being able to finish what they were doing, and I'd look around like, what the hell is going on? Like zombies. And I'm like, it's because they didn't have TV growing up.
Right. Now, I remember as a kid, and it was, again, it was not only, I think the way Mike had mentioned it, not only did my parents not monitor the time we were spending on it, but it was the content. And they were also, unaware. They would go to bed and whatever we did after that. And one of the things I remember watching most was this Billy Bob's Drive-In, which was on like Showtime or Cinemax. And before the show would kick off, the guy would say, like, it would be something along the lines of, yeah, this movie has 4 decapitations, 4 full breasts, like 1 bush. And that was like the stuff, and that was like, so
is this show still on by chance?
Unfortunately, Billy Bob's Drive-In is not still on.
You're kind of selling me on.
No, it was, I mean, actually.
Double decapitations.
No, because it was like these like cold.
What movie was it?
I mean, I think there's a lot of movies that probably have that sort of qualification in it. If that's all you're looking for in a movie.
We'll work with that on a side job.
That is a side episode on itself. So we've mentioned that for all of us, I think it played at least some sort of role in our social upbringing, and to some degree was something that we did with our families, is if not to bond, then at least on a social level. So I'm wondering, as you guys grew up, and and also you're just looking back now, who were some of your favorite either dads, moms, parents from TV shows or movies? And I'll let Mike start on this one.
So favorite dads is kind of from shows, movies, just in general.
Yeah.
Well, I think I got to start with the dad from Teen Wolf right off the bat. I mean, that guy was really solid. I still meant to research this guy's name, but I still say it by the dad from Third Rock from the Sun.
John Lithgow.
Really good guy. Really good guy. Did some good work. I don't know if he has any.
His name's actually Dick Solomon, Flynn. He was on your list. I put him on there just because I knew you're a Lithgow fan.
You should have made that the first one.
I really should.
Well, I mean, and then his work in Harry and the Hendersons, the movie,
as well as Dexter.
Real good.
And Cliff Huxtable is probably top of your list, right, Flynn?
He's up there, not the actor himself, but definitely the role in the show. He did some good things. I'm also gonna go with Who's the detective again, Jenner from CSI that only wears the shirts with the short sleeves and
Carradine?
the pocket? No,
the redhead?
No.
Wait,
Dark hair.
You're thinking of Andy Sipowicz from NYPD Blue.
Him. He's probably a good dad too.
His son died. His son died in the show.
Oh, well, I'm sure he took it pretty hard because he was a good dad. The new dad. Let's see here. Some other good dads.
Well, let me stop you because I have a question.
Let me keep rambling for a little bit. I can go on here for another 20, 30 minutes.
Well, my question was regarding the dad from Teen Wolf because I wonder, is he a good dad? Because, his son was pretty unprepared for becoming a Teen Wolf. And I felt like there could have been some steps to better prepare him.
But in his defense, he didn't know if he was going to prepare. So
yeah, I thought it skipped the gene or something.
Yeah, so the real existential question here is, do you mention to your son that he may be a Teen Wolf and then never, ever be a Teen Wolf? Or do you wait to find out if he is a Teen Wolf? And if so, when will they prove what genitalia was of said Teen Wolf? Was it that of the wolf or of a man?
I feel like the dad had the ability to turn into a teen wolf whenever he wanted, or a wolf, because there's that scene at the door where he opens it and he's a wolf. So I feel like I would definitely show him and be like, "Hey, this could be your future."
You
maybe
would?
not.
I don't think I'd. I don't think I'd show my cards.
Well, my question is, can't you plant the seed? There's got to be some way that you can.
That's what I'm saying.
You can at least, and maybe there's a happy medium between Flynn's not telling him at all and then letting it happen at like a high school party when you're basically borderline, sexually assaulting someone, or just showing up at the door full wolf. I think there's probably somewhere in between where you can probably land on that one. I'm not so sure he's a good dad.
He's like, I'm going to get you this really awesome shaving kit, like just in case.
When you're talking, having to have a conversation with your son, becoming a wolf, it's uncharted territory. I mean, the guy was doing the best he could.
Well, and especially knowing that he struggled so much in basketball, I'd at least throw him the bone and be like, dude, there is this off chance you might be doing 360 reverse dunks by this time next fall.
Hey, all right. For bonus points, Tommy, what was the name of the Teen Wolf's mascot for their basketball team?
Oh, I don't know that answer. I want to say the Giraffes, but I know it's not the Giraffes.
Beavers.
The wooden shoes.
The Beavers.
Beavers. Oh, yeah.
Didn't the coach from Teen Wolf also have 3 really excellent rules to live by? Or is that
And they were the same rule, weren't they?
Man, I think it's just be a Teen Wolf.
I thought it was like, don't ever get less than like 20 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Don't date a girl with a dagger tattoo.
Yeah, I think you're pretty darn close.
And never play cards with someone with the name of a city or something like that.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go
Pretty
back.
good.
I'll edit that in, somewhere in here.
You should.
Any other dads that come to mind? Flinny?
I'll pass it over
Okay.
to Jennifer with my absurd ones.
Gotcha. Jennifer, what do you got?
On the
At least I didn't see the dad from American Beauty this time, though. So
you remember that? Yeah.
Spacey hasn't aged well.
That is not. There's like 4 people dead from that. Witnesses. I would say, on an actual positive one, we used to watch one of the shows as a family we watched was Home Improvement. So like that Tim Allen character, and that was definitely kind of every episode ended with the whole, him going over to talk to Wilson and getting advice on how to handle a family situation. But that was a positive role model relationship.
Can I stop you? Because I actually had this on my list to talk about, and I wanted to debate. Now, was Tim Allen the father figure, or was it Wilson? Because it seemed like he just went over and got all the goods from Wilson and then would come over. And I also wanted to see if there were any arguments to build parallels between Wilson and Mr. Feeney.
Ooh. The original intent of, I think, that Mr. Feeney character was, and I'm sure you can look this up, but was probably to be a bit part that he was that mentor relationship that the kids could go over to just like Wilson is. And obviously that character evolved into a huge part of that show. But like you said, every single episode ended 95% of the time was Tim Allen's character going for that advice.
I disagree with Jennifer on that. They were 2 completely different characters. One was a teacher, The other guy was just some dude behind the fence. You got to see the other guy's face.
But the perils of wisdom that Wilson could provide were very teacher-esque.
Wow, that is excellent.
But it did make it seem like Tim Allen didn't know what the hell he was doing and had to constantly go over to this other guy to give him like at least a
we all gotta
jumping
get
off point.
advice. We all gotta get advice from somebody.
That's
We're
true.
We're not all writing the books here.
Yeah, I don't have Wilson, but I have a Jenrick and I have a Flynn, so that's who I go to. I have a question I was really excited to ask both of you, and I'm curious if you had to choose one Patrick Swayze character to raise your children, which Patrick Swayze character would you choose? And I'm going to let Flynn start on this one.
Easy, no questions asked. Patrick Swayze from Black Dog. He's got the moves. He's quick on his feet. He's resilient. He's tough. He doesn't back down. He can drive a semi-truck, probably better than anyone in the universe. Explosions don't bother him. Guns don't bother him.
Only hallucinations of a black dog.
Well, it's only one very small flaw. And it's a hallucination where he may have run the semi off the road and killed somebody.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, Jenrick, all right? That's what the show's about.
Listen, man, this is life, man. It's not a straight line, man. It's, it's cutbacks, and that's what Swayze from Black Dog knows about.
All right, Jenrick, do you have a Swayze character you would choose?
I would have gone easily with that as my number one, so I'm going to have to go to my second. And I'm going to say Patrick Swayze from Ghost.
Okay.
But
tender Swayze.
That's a sensual Swayze.
But after he's dead,
okay,
like when he's trying to figure everything out,
okay,
like I want the neurotic, like really, really committed to figuring out what happened to himself, Swayze to take care of my kid.
Pitted on revenge on Willie Lopez. And
Willie Lopez going down.
He's in Barcelona. He's in Las Ramblas, just shaking steel palm trees.
Things.
So, Jenrick and I went to Barcelona many years ago, and we got in very late. We thought we had booked this amazing hostel. We go to check in at the hostel. The couple in front of us, this British couple, is breaking down in tears about how they were just held up at gunpoint. And as we get to the front of the checkout counter, we find out that this amazing hostel that we thought we had rooms that we didn't. And just to give you a brief description of what this hostel was kind of like, you walked in and it was just full of beautiful people, and there was a pool table and there was like cool music, and it just seemed like everyone was having the best time ever. And
minus this British couple.
Yeah, minus this British couple who was robbed at gunpoint. So very dejected, we head back out to Las Ramblas Squares with our suitcases, only to see a deranged person like stalking tourists, and then like walk within like 5 feet of us and stare us directly in the eye while he shook a steel palm tree. And to this day, I swear it was actually the actor who played Willie Lopez in Ghost.
Yeah, and that same man, that same man definitely followed another couple down a very dark hallway or alleyway, and I think you referred to him as like a velociraptor that was smelling blood. Like he saw his prey.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been to Barcelona, it's kind of it's not kind of, it is a very, very cool city. There are parts of it that, Jennifer, you made the comparison, and I've actually never been to the city, but pictures I've seen very much remind me of New Orleans, where it's like the very narrow streets with the buildings coming up, and it just seemed like one of those old New Orleans vampire noir type situations where like this couple goes down this dark alley and Willie Lopez disappeared into the darkness, and like the three of them were probably never seen or heard from again.
That was that.
That was that. Okay, so Ghost, you're going with a tender Ghost. I can appreciate that. I think personally,
think about the magic tricks you could do, moving coins, all sorts of stuff.
And then on top of that, just the arts and crafts time that he's gonna be able to have, man. I mean, the guy can work the wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid's gonna be firing up that killing left and right. Joanna's gonna be happy.
Mama Pappas is gonna have lots of ashtrays for Christmas.
Lots of ashtrays.
A lot of ashtrays. I think I'm gonna have to. I mean, it's gonna be maybe a cliche pick, but I want to. I'm split between Dirty Dancing and Roadhouse.
Ooh.
I think I'm gonna.
I feel like you don't even know Swayze.
Well, I just feel like there's two different.
So here's why I disagree with your picks. Okay. First off,
Both of them?
Yes, both. Swayze from Roadhouse. That's not Dad Swayze. That's single dude out there working the bar scene, kicking some ass, taking some names. Dude, he's not looking to raise any kids. Dude, you can't bring a kid into that kind of ass-kicking kind of lifestyle. That's why I disagree with that pick. Second one I disagree with from the Dirty Dancing is, dude, Patrick Swayze was barely 16 in Dirty Dancing. Do you think he was ready to raise a goddamn kid? No, dude, no. Those weren't Swayze, right? Those weren't not good Swayzes in their own right, yes. Swayze's ready to take over a family? No, not my house.
Well, I'd like to counter one of your points. I would like to say a 16-year-old Swayze is the equivalent of probably a 35-year-old normal human being. So he was more than capable of raising a child at 16.
I mean, so I thought if anything, you would have gone from Swayze circa Point Break. Because basically that looks exactly like your dad's. So that's basically what you were raised with.
Well, I think given my experience with Papa Pappas, you can see why I chose to go maybe a different route. But I did consider Bodie. I also considered Patrick Swayze from Red Dawn, where if he was 16 in Dirty Dancing, he was probably 12 in Red Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was not letting communists take over his school.
And he's also
I could respect that.
I mean, and yeah. So but the reason I think I'm going to settle on Roadhouse is something that Jenrick told me once a long time ago about being a dad of 5, and he felt like it was being a bouncer at a bar, or it was kind of like the equivalent of bouncing at a bar at different times. And I'll let maybe Jenrick defend my Roadhouse pick a little bit. What are the similarities of raising 5 kids to being a bouncer in the cinematic smash hit Roadhouse?
Well, you're constantly guarding the proverbial door as far as their well-being, a variety of other things, but you're literally, and as they get older, it's only going to get worse, but you're just constantly trying to be as much in control of what's going into their lives, if that makes sense. As anything else. So I get the comparison. I barely remember making that to you, so I'm kind of coming up with this off the cuff. But I could easily see myself saying it too. One Swayze reference that we did not think about, and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it was not Rumblefish. What was the other one?
Oh, Outsiders.
Outsiders.
Yeah,
That'd be a good Swayze.
Yeah.
He was the dad of all those hoodlums.
Yeah, Derry.
Okay, so
Derry.
now that you've retracted, you've gone back and made some good examples. I will accept that in terms of a bouncer for the Swayze dad reference, only because you never know when you need to find a knife in somebody's boot, for sure.
That's true.
That is right. I'm curious, is it, being dads of, multiple kids, if you have any good recommendations, I think we threw out a couple shows already, Aquanauts being one from Flynn, and, Bubble Guppies and anything with Elmo, and it being my experience with what Shep's into right now. But for dads who have younger kids who are trying to find maybe shows worth, turning them on to or getting them involved in, what do you guys suggest for that? We'll start with you, Adam.
My kids really liked Curious George. They still do. Curious George is basically 2 individual episodes in one, and each one is going to have some type of educational component to it. I mean, my Jackson to this day will still reference and ask about Curious George episodes when he was like 3 or 4. That's a good one that Chef's probably close to being ready for. I'd say anywhere between 2 and 4.
And is that something you enjoy watching as well?
It's actually, of the options I have, Curious George isn't that bad.
Gotcha.
I agree.
The old Magic School Bus that we used to have growing up, that's also on Netflix now, and they have a new version. Those are actually really good if you rewatch them again. The what you're being taught is a little bit higher level, like I'd say at least 5 or 6. But those are actually pretty entertaining too.
What about you, Flynn? You got any good shows?
Yeah, I'll second Jenrick on the Magic School Bus. The new one's good. The old ones are really good too to watch again.
What's the name of the teacher?
Miss Dribble?
Okay, yeah.
Something like that.
Okay, that's what I
Something like
remember. I
that.
remember the teacher standing out.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, maybe a little bit too much for Shepard now. I got deep into the Pokemon hole. That may be still a little bit down the road for Shep. I enjoyed watching that. I enjoyed Octonauts a lot. I thought that was a good show. I thought Wild Kratts was a pretty good show that they could get into. That's not bad. Paw Patrol ended up driving me nuts after a while. I'm trying to think what else were big ones when they were younger.
I feel like everything nowadays has an educational component to it to a certain degree, whereas nothing we grew up with did. Like we had like Fraggle Rock and G.I. Joe. It's like we learned about American patriotism.
But there would be that point at the end of G.I. Joe where it was like, hey, don't climb into an empty refrigerator, or like,
true, that's true.
You know, like, oh hey, don't take candy from minorities. Just weird. Like, have you gone back and actually watched some of those? Like, how dated and like borderline like racist and misogynist they are?
No, but I have watched Zach Morris's Trash.
Zach Morris's Trash is a good
Facebook is also pretty good. You go back and watch some of Zach Morris's schemes.
Yeah, those did not age well. Something else we watched very recently with Shep. He's really into a phase where he's into like farm animals and just animals in general. So anything from the jungle or in a farm, he loves. So being kind of like just
Charlotte's Web.
Well, no. So and that would be a really good one. I didn't consider that.
That's an uplifting story.
But we put on Dumbo, and holy shit, is that a rough movie from a number of standpoints. Completely racist. Like their depiction of the.
Are you talking about the original one or the new one?
The original 1941 cartoon Dumbo. Their depiction of black people through crows is outrageous, and then not to mention just the rustabout scene. They have a rustabout song that makes indentured servitude seem like something that was like they loved and they were really into it. They also had animal cruelty with just just seeing how far we've come with our attitudes towards animals and zoos and circuses. The just how mean the grown up lady elephants are to Dumbo when they see her with the ears, and just the idea of mocking something physically different. I mean, it was something that you could never get away with making today. And with all that being said, Shep fucking loved it. Like, absolutely loved it.
Well, they don't get it.
Yeah, no, exactly. All that's over their head, but he just loves elephants.
They just see a flying elephant.
Yeah, he loves elephants. He's like, he loves it, and his ability to mimic elephants is pretty fantastic. You look like you wanted to say something there, Jenrick.
I think I haven't actually checked, but on Disney Plus, they have disclaimers before those movies, right?
Yeah, and I was shocked because the disclaimer of this movie was something about the depiction of use of tobacco. That's the only disclaimer, even though it's essentially blatantly racist. I was really taken aback. Another quick note related to Shep was today I picked him up from daycare, and his daycare provider let us know that they were unable to finish watching The Lion King because every time an animal would come on the screen that Shep recognized, he would essentially start doing the animal noises so incessantly that like the other kids would get distracted, and it just turned into like them being like, like it's just she's like, yeah, we couldn't,
it was literally Lord of the Flies.
It turned into something. It turned into something very primal, very fast, and I guess Shep was the ringleader in it. So, but that's my struggle. We're talking about screen time here. I'm going to be totally honest because not only did we mention at the front end of the show this idea that screen time's a nice, useful tool when as a parent you're solo and you don't have the luxury of handing them off to the other, a partner or someone else there, and you just need something to occupy their attention for X, very short, finite amount of time. But, Shep's 18 months old, right? And it's kind of nice because I feel like I'm going to kind of get my fix now that we're having another kid soon here. But he's at that age where he doesn't want to cuddle. He doesn't want to be still very long at all. Maybe sometimes when I put him down, he will a little bit, but for the most part, he's he's an 18-month-old boy. He's rumbling and tumbling, and he wants to, be crazy. So I don't get very many moments anymore with him where he's just kind of like my baby again, and he's just laying and cuddling on me.
Have you tried NyQuil?
Oh, you mean Casey Anthony's nanny, Zanny the nanny? No, I have not tried drugging the kid yet. I'm not opposed to drugs, obviously, in my own, background. So, I feel like it would be really
Well, you're at that
shitty
age,
of me.
man, where he's getting mobile. They start putting two and two together. They're like, if I put this foot in front of this one really fast, I'll fall on my face in a few steps and
Yeah.
just let him go.
Well, I mean, the thing is, for me, it's just I miss that time. I miss that bonding time. And sometimes screen time allows me to have that with him. If he gets into something, those are the few times where he will just kind of like, if I find something that interests him enough, he'll sit on my lap, he'll kind of relax back, he'll watch it, he'll cuddle, and we have those moments that are very fleeting at this point. So
I don't know though. You think he's bonding with you or the TV?
I think that's a good question. I think that's a fair question. I mean, that's something I think as parents we're constantly needing.
Getting deep on you, bro.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I think we need to be aware of that because I think there are things that we do that are more so for ourselves than our children, if we're being totally honest.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly guilty of that. And I think this could be one of the. I hadn't thought of it in that light, but it's.
I'll agree with you on. Yes, do I use it as a crutch to definitely give myself a minute to, what I mean, pick up, help Kate, do something around the house, definitely. But I would try not to use it as like a bonding method. I mean, unless it's with sports, that's a different story. I'll watch sports, but other than that, man, you'll see that there's so many other things you're going to start getting into, and their interests constantly change. Where I think that you're going to find that it's just going to keep evolving. That what you're looking for now is it's going to be something else, and they're going to keep looking to you for what that is. And if you make it the TV, then it's going to be the TV. If you make it go into a park, then it's going to be the park. You know what I mean? They're making their decisions based off what they see you do.
Absolutely. And that's part of the idea behind this podcast. A lot of it is just to talk to, dads who are better at it than I am. And I
don't think I'm better than anybody. That's just my take on my approach.
Well, I think you guys are better dads than me. And part of it is just that you guys have more experience and, you guys are ahead of me in a lot of areas. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that, I don't think. But there's this other aspect where I've identified things, and one of the about myself, and one of the things I've identified about myself is this idea that I'm not active enough, and I've said that in my past TV was what my mom used, and perhaps to a certain degree it was out of a little bit of because it was the easy way, and I think Lita has mentioned that a couple times where it's like it seems like when you use screen time at times it can be taking the easy way out, and I want him to associate me with a lot of positive things, and I don't think it's a horrible thing if we can bond over something screen related down the road, which brings me to something I wanted to talk to Adam about, which was something that you got to share with your son. You're a big Star Wars fan, and Rise of Skywalker was just out, and you got to take your oldest Jax to go see it, and you want to talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, like we were just saying, I think ultimately you're going to have, whether it's sports or whether it's something that I know you're, Tommy yourself, hopefully Chef's a few years away from Game of Thrones, subject matter wise. Yeah. But there's things that you are really, really into and passionate about that you're very hopeful that your kids are going to be into to some type of degree. And Star Wars is one of those for me. And it's been really cool to see the evolution of that brand as Disney took it over and what it's going to look like moving forward. And I know I've tried since they were about 3 and 4 years old, him and his brother, to introduce them, and it was never the right time. They just weren't quite ready for it. And all of a sudden, this last about year and a half, it started with Jackson, and we looked through every single movie. And I told him, I'm like, when this one comes out, I'm like, me and a group of guys, we always go. I'm like, you're going to come with us. And so he got to go to the 8 o'clock show, stay up a little later than he normally would, sit next to me. It was surreal. And I remember texting Joanna from before the movie started that like this is something I've been waiting for a while. So, ready to introduce my other kids. And there's more than just Star Wars, but it's a huge personal thing to me. So
right,
it's awesome.
We all have things that are, like you said, super important, whether it be a Song of Ice and Fire or Star Wars and I wonder, Mike, and it doesn't have to be necessarily screen time related. Is there anything that you're pumped to share with Mikey Jr., whether it be Long John Silver or something along those lines?
Dude, I wish there was a Long John Silver that was located out here. I would say one of the coolest things I got to do with Mikey so far is that we haven't been to a ton of sporting events, but I got to take him to a Washington, the UW Cougar game. It's like a big rivalry, so I got to go down there and take him down there for a game day, where it's like the ESPN game day down there.
Awesome.
So he got to see a pretty cool game. I think that for me at this point, because when they're younger, you take them, it's expensive, they don't get it, you know what I mean? It's loud, all they want to find out is food, and it's hard. So I think to go to like a sporting event where you actually sat there, like watch it, like understood what was going on, like they'd seen a little bit of it. So I thought that was like a really cool experience to share, because my dad got to be there too. So it was just kind of fun.
Awesome. Well, guys, I think that's all the time we have for tonight. I want to thank you guys for making some time to come out and talk to myself and the one or two people that listen or watch New Dad. Episode 3 will be episode on picking names for babies.
What episode is this?
This is episode 2.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. Episode, what did I say? Episode 1?
No, you said it right.
Okay, yeah. Before I let these guys go, we are going to play a quick game. And this is a new one for New Dad, so stay tuned while I pause for a word from our sponsor. This episode brought to you by Visit Luxembourg. We have lots of castles and shit. Also, we have Angry Bird. Luxembourg. Yay! All right, one way we like to always end one of our shows is with a little game. And we have Adam and Mike here ready to play a game that's new to the show, New Dad. Mike has a series of TV dads as well as kids' TV shows. He needs to get Adam to guess the name of the show or dad without saying some of the key words. So we are going to put 30 seconds on the clock. Flynn, let me know when you're ready.
Real quick, Tom, I just want to let you know I will be playing for the country of Luxembourg today as a dual citizen. I want to announce that this is actually the first podcast
Show the tattoo.
as a Luxembourg citizen.
Oh.
Show the tattoo.
Well, we'll get into that later. But start with the flag. Let me win first, and then in my heroic dance-off.
I was going to say, technically, we may have heard about that before
So I'm probably the first international competitor you've had on the show. I think it's probably reason for a lot of celebration.
However, you are not
multicultural.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
No. Hold on. Do I have to do these in order, or just as many as I can?
Do them in order. If you don't like one, you can say pass, and we can come back to it and we'll, at the very end.
Okay, hold on. I'm getting it. Okay. All right, let me know when, Tommy. I'm ready.
All right, here we are with Mike and Adam, ready to play Guess That Show or Dad. We're going to come up with a better name for this, but we have Mike going at the start of 1, 2, 3.
Okay, arguably the best cross-dressing nanny of all time.
Cross-dressing nanny?
Yeah.
Tony Danza?
No. Cross-dressing, like when it's a woman as a nanny to take care of his own kids. The actor's no longer alive.
From Ladybugs?
No. Cross-dressing
Pass this one.
Okay, I'm passing the next one. It gets killed in Game of Thrones. Was supposed to be the king.
Dude.
Takes him down.
Never saw it.
Pass. Teacher that's a chemist that makes a lot of money.
Breaking Bad.
The actor.
Walter White.
Yes.
Walter White.
Yes, got it. Okay. Writer.
Stephen King.
No. Think cartoon.
The Shining.
No, cartoon. Writer's the main dude. He's running the show. He's a smooth character. Never gets in trouble. Always saw.
You got one.
Jenrick got one, and not only that, but I accidentally stopped paying attention to the clock, so Flynn got a whole minute. So we're gonna give Jenrick an entire
30 seconds is,
Mrs.
30
Doubtfire,
seconds
dude?
is really. What is the first one?
Mrs.
Doubtfire.
Doubtfire.
I don't know how else I could have explained it.
I thought my well, the odds that I guessed ladybugs and that dude's also not alive is decent.
Well, yeah, but he wasn't a nanny, so that's where you're. I mean, not even close.
That's true.
All right. So now Flynn has to beat a whopping one guess right to beat Jenrick in the inaugural game of Guess That Daddy. We're working on names. Ready, Jenrick?
Yep.
Flynn, you got your blindfold on? There we go. All right, sweet.
Hold on, no, I got a better idea. Okay.
All right. All right. Jenrick, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. This is great. All right, go.
All right, Will Smith series from the 80s, early 90s.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
All right, who's the patriarch in it, the judge?
Shoot. Banks.
Yeah, but what's he call him? What's Will Smith call him?
Uncle Phil.
There
Correct.
you go. It's a British cartoon with porkers in it. It's a British cartoon on Cartoon Network or one of those shows.
Big.
Yes. It's Dennis and Dee's dad.
Frank Reynolds.
Yep. Dope.
Homer Simpson.
Yep. George's dad in the series we used to watch in high school.
So
George and George's dad.
Stanza. It's Frank Stanza.
Yep. All right. Your favorite probably character of all time was an 80s show with a slovenly father and kid.
Time. Flynn
Al Bundy.
Flynn got 5. He got the first one, so that's a pretty resounding
good.
win. Yeah.
That's almost half the list.
Yeah. All right, guys. So, well, thanks for coming on. We're gonna let you guys go, but before I do you guys have anything you want to plug, Mike?
Oh yeah, it's if you've listened to some of these episodes, there's promos. My wife does the Pop Moms podcast. It's fantastic. If you get a chance, check it out on Spotify or iTunes.
It's an excellent podcast. I can definitely vouch for it as being both a guest and a fan of the show. What about you, Jenrick? You got anything you're...
All my podcast ideas are in the works. Nothing to plug yet.
Nothing to plug yet. What about Raising Cane's?
Yeah. Sure, we can plug Raising Cane's. There's actually one opened up in Oregon, Flynn. You can get on the road.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll check that out.
For all the chicken tenderonis in our lives. So check us out. Prod Cause, take us away.
When I'm in that mood and I'm in that mode and I'm in that zone, when I'm in that flow, when I'm in that groove, when I'm in that mood, when I'm in that mode and I'm in that zone and I'm in that flow. Let's go.
Relaxing at the spot, past the crop, in the thick of things.